We have got 2020 real estate market predictions and the best holiday attractions in the greater Philadelphia area. Toole Time is live right now. I'm Tom Toole. She's Jess Lion. We are back with our holiday edition of Toole Time. Very exciting. Probably should have worn
Should have got hats.
Yeah, or like an ugly sweater that would have matched my ugly jacket.
You said it, not me.
It's better in the spring, better in the summertime. So, want to get into this is a time of year where all the experts come out with like their 2020 predictions. What's going to happen in the market? Where's it going? And a lot of times this stuff is wrong. If you remember last year, everyone said rates were going to be 5.5%. Well, guess what? Everybody was wrong. So we found 4 of them, and we're going to talk about them a little bit. And these come from some pretty big, pretty important people in the industry, companies, experts, whatever you want to call it. So let's just run down them, Jess, if you're game.
I'm game.
And we can see if these are legit predictions and they'll happen, or if they won't happen. So
what happens if we're wrong?
Nothing happens to us because we're just debating other people's opinions.
Okay.
So hopefully we're giving people the right information. That's I guess that's what we're looking for here. So the first one comes from Zillow, and they say that there will be no recession in 2020. This has been the talk all year long that there's a recession coming. What do you think about all this?
No recession in 2020. I don't have a ton of experience when I was younger when the other recession was happening, but I would say no. I would say that with the rate going where it is, I think it's going to stay the same. It's not going to go up. That's what we've heard. I would say that more buyers are going to be out there in the market in spring and in 2020, which would, be a great spring market. So I would say no.
So no to a housing recession in 2020. And
slow down, maybe.
Slow down. Well, slow down's a little different because when you're going 120 miles down the road and then it slows to 90, it's going to feel a lot slower, even though it's still pretty fast,
still going 90.
Right? So, so I saw a couple key factors in the economy, and I looks like what Zillow's saying, it's not just a housing recession, but also just a recession in general in the economy. So spending has trended up this year based on all the reports. Consumers are spending more. Employers are adding jobs. They added a ton of jobs. It was, I think, 231,000 jobs added in November of 2019. So that's a great sign for a healthy economy. And we saw wage growth jump 3% this year. So all those things are signs that a recession is not coming. What I will say is there's probably one coming in like 2021 or 2022. Given all this, what we're seeing, and especially with, you talked about the housing market, housing drives GDP, the gross domestic product, pretty aggressively. So that makes up almost a third of all the GDP in the country is housing, meaning like construction on real estate, people making improvements in their homes. So seeing that spending's up, employers are adding jobs, and wage growth is up, I agree with you. I don't see a recession yet. I would say the economy is fragile right now. There's no question there. And we've got an election next year. What happens during election years?
Questioning.
Everyone hesitates. Right on. They get freaked out. And this is going to be pretty hotly contested. This is not a political show here. This is just a fact. I mean, people are going bananas about what's going on in Washington right now. So that's probably going to keep the economy running strong because people are going to be hesitant and kind of keep doing more of the same.
All those factors, you're saying more jobs. I mean, that would be really attractive if you were a buyer. So yeah, I think that it's going to be a really good beginning of 2020 at least.
Well, especially if wages are going up because they're going to afford more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're both in agreement. No recession yet in 2020. Cool. This is our best show yet. We're only part of the way in, by the way. So number 2 prediction, The Balance. It's a website all about the economy. They 57% of people on a survey they did think that there's going to be a bubble that bursts and a price correction by 2020 in the real estate market. Do you think this one's going to happen or not, Jess?
I'm not sure about this because I was reading a few articles that, I guess, burst, meaning like prices on properties are going to go up, and then they're going to like plummet, right? So, I mean, I think that I'm not sure about this one. I think that the prices are going to slowly increase and maybe they'll flatten out. But I don't think it's going to burst.
So I've been through a bubble bursting, and let me tell you what was happening then. If anyone watched The Sopranos, right? You've seen The Sopranos.
No, I haven't.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk to the camera. So if you've seen The Sopranos, they had like this HUD scheme where they were literally like breaking appraisers' knees to get higher numbers. This really happened. Not that far off from what happened prior to the bubble bursting in 2008 when all the car companies failed and the banks failed.
Yep.
So what we're seeing with, I read the article in depth on this, and they attributed this bubble bursting to a couple of things. Higher rates. Well, the Fed came out last week and said we're holding steady on rates. So rates are not going to be going higher.
Not true.
Maybe if this was from last year, it could have been a little more valid. So that factor's wrong.
Okay.
Risky products. So they're talking about like
loans.
Specifically mortgages. So subprime loans. So I know you weren't doing. So that's when people would have like really bad credit.
Yeah, our lenders were telling us about that.
Or they would take their pulse and say, okay, you got a pulse, we're going to give you a loan. So that sort of thing is really not happening right now. There are some lenders, they call them, I can't remember the term. It's I've seen some loans come in where they're getting like 7-8%, and it's either like a hard money loan, which is super risky. Those are like 13-14%. Or they're the term they're using now, it's like when WorldCom rebranded. Like they're just using another term for subprime loans. We had an offer on one of our listings for this. When I got into it with them, to explain it to the seller, we said, no, see you later. So consumers are more aware of this. And they turned down a higher offer with this sort of suspect financing to get something predictable that was going to close. So seeing that one example there, that's really important. Tax reform. So the new tax laws, obviously the interest deduction's a little lower. It went from $1 million to $750 on the principal interest deduction, and property tax write-offs went down. Then they cited rising sea levels and the yield curve on the T-bill. So the yield curve on the T-bill, the 10-year T-bill, that's what affects mortgage rates, and that's been pretty steady. It hasn't gone down. So I look at this as totally wrong. I don't see any way that there's a bubble bursting. In fact, most places, because of inventory levels, looks like prices are going to go up a little bit next year in that 2 to 4% range. So this, to me, wrong. The balance, you better check your facts. Couldn't disagree more.
Okay. I learned today. I learned on that one.
Okay. Number 3, Freddie Mac predicts that interest rates are going to hover around 3.8%, not only for 2020, but also into 2021. What do you think about all this, Jess?
Well, if the interest rates stay at 3.8%, I think that there's going to be a lot more buyers out in the market in the spring, a lot more affordability. Being a buyer, I would say you have a lot more competition come the spring. So if you're looking now might be your shot. But that's what I would think would happen.
So how do you feel about the prediction from Freddie Mac? You think that's going to happen, not happen?
Well, from the other two sources, I guess the first Zillow, I would say it's going to stay the same. I think it's going to happen. So
on this, the facts I got. So Keeping Current matters. If you guys aren't following that website, highly recommend it. It's talks all about what's going on in the economy, content. Steve Harney, who is their like chief evangelist, if you want to call him that. I've met him a number of times. I know his son Bill really well, who runs the company. Got a chance to sit with him in August, and he's telling me the same thing then, that looks like rates are probably going to hang firm. They might even go down a little bit, which we've already seen that through the fourth quarter. So knowing what the Fed did last week, saying rates are going to stay steady, I don't see things really changing too much. So I don't know how long they're going to stay at this 3.8% range. I do see him saying, for the short term, unless something crazy happens, maintaining kind of a flat curve. They're not going to be going up or down. Fluctuation, but not anything that's going to be dramatic. And the Mortgage Bankers Association forecast, they are citing this as the best time to refi since 2016 and the best time to purchase since 2006, just because of numbers, not because of what's happening in the market. Again, affordability, like you said. So I see this as, for the short term, definitely. Not so sure about 2021. That's a long time to predict something. So you get the different person in office, federal policy changes, that can really happen. But let's say through October, I'm all for. I'm a believer in the 3.8% strategy. Not strategy prediction. Sorry.
That's a great reason to even call, I guess, a lot of your friends, family, past clients. With the rate that low, refi is a great conversation to have, and you'd be giving them some great advice too.
All right. So it sounds like we are also in agreement on number 3. Meaning that, so Zillow, they're right, no recession. The balance, out of their mind, totally wrong. Freddie Mac, accurate. Number 4 prediction from Realtor.com Inventory will evaporate. Their words, not mine.
I'm not sure how inventory would completely evaporate. I think that people who would be selling their home, maybe a lot of people who are maybe part of the baby boomers, maybe they were downsizing, things like that, would have an incentive to sell because of, there's going to be a ton of buyers out there with the low interest rate. So I think that it wouldn't evaporate. Again, maybe slow down a little bit, but I don't think it would evaporate at all.
Evaporate's a strong word. Decline
that's gone.
Well, yeah, that's the definition of evaporate, when water disappears and turns into gas. So, where they're going with this inventory is going to go lower. I think that's what that means to me. I see that there's one key to this here, and no one's really talking about this right now. There's really two markets. Well, people are talking about this, but they're not talking about the effect. So there's two markets happening right now. You got your high-end and premium market, and then you've got your first-time buyer and trade-up.
Yeah.
And in our marketplace, the line there draws around 600,000 to 700,000, because no matter what county you're in, that's about, when you're above 650, it's anywhere from 3 to 7% of all the sales so far this year. So you talk about addressable market, that's not a lot.
No.
What I see is the key to this is that so many people in that luxury market, they're hesitant to get more aggressive because they don't know where they're moving to. And there's people trying to buy into that market and move up because they're making that next move where people move up 1/2 and down 1/3. When the prices on those homes start to come down a little bit, meaning that market's already soft. That's a much softer market than the trade up and the first-time buyer market. Those are robust with activity. You're seeing multiple offers there all the time.
Yeah.
When that high-end premium market, when the sellers there come off their numbers a bit, I'm clear that's going to loosen up everything, because all of a sudden you're creating inventory, right? So you have someone buying up, well, then they're going to sell their house. And then when they sell their house, so let's say they're buying a home at $1 million, just to pick an easy number. People move up 1/2, down 1/3, so they're probably coming from like a $600,000 or $700,000 house. So then they've created another piece of inventory. And then there's someone that's going to move up into that home. So maybe the $300,000 buyer, they buy up. It's that high-end price point, and that's always been a slow market, but it's been slower now than what I've seen ever. And the people that are motivated are selling there, and it's also going to create some opportunity because of all the stuff we talked about before with lower rates, right? So the payment's going to be lower, and that's a big investment for somebody. When those sellers start to loosen up a bit on their numbers and become a little more negotiable or realistic with where the market is, that's going to change everything. I don't see that happening in the next 2-3 months here. Probably that happens 6, 12, 18 months down the line.
Okay.
When there's that pain of being on the market for a long period of time. Because some of these homes, they're on the market literally a year, 2 years.
You see them.
We've sold some of them. And so that to me is the key piece here.
What do you think? I guess, like you're saying, the length of time on market, but what do you think will motivate them to even list in the first place?
So it's going to be maintenance, number one. And it's going to be motivation. If they're trying to get closer to their kids or their family, that's going to be the people that sell. If there's a divorce involved or it's an estate sale, it's going to have to be those really motivating reasons. And when that motivation comes up, and there's not going to be a lot of people that hit that, the flip side is the motivated people are always going to sell. It's the ones that are maybe selling because they want to. When they get competitive with the motivated people, that's when we're going to see the market loosen up a little bit. So I don't see it changing in the short term. I will tell you, inventory is going to spike in the spring like it does every single year, no matter what. So I don't know that it's going to evaporate. It's still going to be a challenge. So I'm kind of 50-50 on that one.
Okay.
So those were our predictions. Interesting stuff. Love to hear your comments on this because this is really controversial because no one really knows what's going to happen.
We talk to everybody on the phone, and some people say, it's going to be a great time to buy, and some people are like, I'd be too afraid to even buy, consider buying in 2020. So we hear this from a lot of people who call us.
Well, what I would say to that is that, and we've talked about this, that in the past 5 recessions, whether a recession hits now or a year from now or whatever, housing prices have gone down only in 2 of them. And one of those was in 2008 when housing caused the recession. So in the 4 other recessions that happened, prices only went down once, and they only went down less than 2%. So it's not like housing has been the issue in a lot of cases. It's usually everything else going on in the economy. So let's talk local here.
All right.
Best holiday attractions. So we got a list of them here. So
There are
We'll go
quite a
through what I
few.
saw were the most popular.
Yeah, we hand selected.
Things I've been to and I've seen. I mean, I've got kids, so this is my life in December. So let's run down each one. Give me your take, and we'll see what we think the best one is. So the first one, Peddler's Village up in Bucks County.
I've never been there. Is it like a Longwood Gardens kind of thing?
So they're attached to a railroad that does a Polar Express. And I've gone to that
That's
maybe
cool.
3 or 4 times. It's a pretty old railroad, pretty cool, super expensive, and it is really far out of the way. I mean, you're right in
That's
New
what I'm
Hope.
saying. Like, it's very far.
New Hope's a really cool town. I mean, it's a very old town, and you're right on like the river, the Delaware River there. My issue with this, too far.
I mean, I have never even heard of it, to be honest with you. So I would say, no, this is a no-go for me. Not even on my list.
If you live in Bucks County or northern Montgomery County, great. It's very far. I mean, I think it took me like an hour and 15 minutes to get there. The first year I went with our son, and he was like
Jeez.
1. And
There's a lot more local to do. Absolutely.
it was cool, but very far.
Okay. Dilworth Park. Is that what you have next?
Dilworth Park. So that's where the ice skating rink is, right outside City Hall.
Okay.
Very New York feeling. I mean, you're ice skating outside. What I like about this is the crowds are not insane like it is in New York. Like if you want to go ice skating at Rockefeller Center, you better budget like half your day because you're waiting in line a long time and it's not
mobbed
fun.
around there, and the side streets are mobbed up there, and that's not the case here. And there's a lot to do. I mean, you're right near Macy's. You're close. You can go anywhere. Go out to a restaurant. Go shopping other places. So I think this would be not number 1 on my list, but this would be, maybe 2 or 3.
I give the city a lot of credit for revitalizing that part of town because City Hall, like you walked around, there was just like sidewalks. It was horrible.
Dead too.
And then they had that, what was that thing there? Occupy was there for a while.
Yeah.
And so they've really, for City Hall, it's such a cool building and structurally, really, really great to look at. And then being able to look down Broad Street on the southern view there. So I give the city a lot of credit for turning this into an attraction instead of just a bunch of concrete like it used to be.
Yeah, that was a nice one. All right. What do we have next?
Christmas Village at Love Park.
Christmas Village at Love Park. Well, I've never been to Love Park before.
I've
Not
walked
even
through
during
there a
Christmas.
couple times. Best to do it during the day in most cases. Now they've rejuvenated the park there a little bit. The love sign's cool. It's a bunch of
If you're going to propose to someone at Christmas time, that's a great spot.
Oh, I'm not doing that. So and I don't think you are either. So
I'm not. I would say if you're at the other one, Dilworth. I mean, this is right near it.
You could
so
probably
can
do it
knock
all at
them
the
out.
same time, but it sells a bunch of Christmas stuff. It's dumb things you don't really need to buy, like Christmas tree ornaments and all that. So, not. I'm sure. I hear you. Not high on my list.
No, it's not high on my list either.
And plus, it's freezing cold outside.
That doesn't bother me.
It may not bother you until you're bringing some toddlers around and they're complaining how cold it is.
You have
so
a whole other factor.
yeah,
that
well,
I don't
this
have.
is what we're evaluating here. So,
All right.
the Westchester Christmas Parade,
Have you
very
been to
popular.
this?
No, I haven't.
I've never been to this either.
It's also
I
too
don't know
cold,
what's
and the
just
parking is horrible. The parking's a disaster. Nick, have you ever been to the parade? So Nick, our
Oh, you
videographer, has been
Every year.
every year. So what do you think about it?
Too crowded.
Too crowded. So
That's a no-go for us.
my observation served me well on this one.
All right, what do we have next?
Longwood Gardens.
Longwood Gardens at Christmas. I love Longwood Gardens. I've been there during Christmas time. It's absolutely beautiful. The only thing is the drive out to Kennett Square. Takes forever, but I really think it's worth it. You can get some great pictures.
If you want to be bored, then go to Longwood Gardens would be my advice.
It. This is for the photographers. Maybe you want to send out a Christmas card, go earlier in the month, get it done real quick. I disagree. Longwood Gardens Christmas is probably number 2 for me.
I went there the day after Thanksgiving one year, and it was mobbed. It was crazy, and it was super boring. So
Not for you.
not for me.
A lot of trees. Okay.
So probably one of the more famous things, the light show at Macy's.
Okay.
So what do you think about this one, Jess?
This one is number 1 on my list just because it's a holiday tradition for us. My grandmother always used to take us here on Christmas. We would drive into the city. Back when I was younger, the city was this place where you never went, so it was always cold, and we bundled up, and then we went. We would sit by the Eagle, and we would watch this show. So it brings a lot of warm feelings for me. It's free. They do it every 2 hours or so. You can go shopping. I love this. This is number 1.
The most classic one, I would say there's cooler stuff to see than this. I mean, the light show itself,
I love it.
It's pretty.
I'm a kid again.
I think, I mean, you might have found it in like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, filmed in the 80s, and it still wasn't high tech then. So, the most classic one, no question about it.
That's what's the best about it. It is so outdated. I think it's great. And kids
I
still
mean,
love it.
This is like the only Macy's that's open anymore
Have you
either.
taken your kids?
We have not, no, because it's bananas in there. I mean, it's too crowded.
Getting in there is absolutely madness. But
we went a couple times because we used to. Bridget and I lived not far. We could walk to Macy's from where we used to
Mm-hmm.
live, so that was great. And I think the appeal to this and a couple other things is there's a lot of stuff close together there. So you have Dilworth Park. You can hit up Reading Terminal, which is not Christmas related, but a place you should go no matter what.
get all the food.
If you want to go get your tchotchkes from outside, you can go to the Love Park, whatever it is. So there's some convenience there. You
knock
can
it
hit a
out
couple
there.
things.
Okay. I like that one. That's number one for me anyway.
All right, the Blue Cross River Rink.
Have you been there?
I have been there, not at Christmas time, and I feel like it's the second-tier skating rink right now compared to Dilworth Park.
No. I completely disagree. Dilworth Park doesn't have anything on Winterfest. Winterfest is so cool for adults.
Well, explain what it is, because I don't even know.
Winterfest, so they have this rink next to the water, but then they have all these little cabins, and they have a heated tent that has a bar for adults, arcade games. They in the cabins you can like roast marshmallows. They have fire pits everywhere. They really changed it down there. It's a lot, and it's not as mobbed as near City Hall. So I think this. I mean, we go every year around like December 13th for my sister's birthday, but this I think is a better rink than Dilworth Park.
Is that down by the beer garden down there? Okay,
The Harbor Park.
got it.
So that one's pretty good. You should check it out.
Sounds a little more adult-friendly.
It is.
All right, the Nutcracker, way too boring. Been to that. Let's just move on to the next one.
I've never seen it,
I fell
so.
asleep the last time I was there, so my
like
cousin
you
was
have
in
to
it. She
see
was
it.
awesome.
Really?
She did a great job, but it was we only saw her for like 15 minutes, so
Never
that
went
was
to any ballet, so.
you're not
All
missing
right.
much.
Okay. The Miracle on South 13th Light Show. So I just started hearing about this, but apparently there's this street in South Philly that every single house on the street is lit up, and it's really nice. I mean,
There's a couple cities
I wouldn't
that
go
do
out
this.
of my way.
Yeah, there's a couple cities that do this. They have something down in Baltimore. It's very similar. You know, it's I think in Baltimore, I know the leases there. When you lease the house, it says you have to decorate for the holidays. Like you're not allowed not to. That's one of the terms.
That is so funny.
Well, otherwise,
I'd be the
imagine
Grinch.
the
I
one
would
house.
just Grinch it out.
That's why you got to put it in a contract, so there's no debate. So
That is so funny. Okay.
the video show at the Comcast Center. It's a 12-minute video show.
Have you been to this one?
I have not. I've seen the video shows at the Comcast Center, and I would say they're cool, but the technology is like a little outdated. Like I mean, it was a lot cooler when the Comcast Center opened in like 2009 versus 2008 versus 2019. It's warm in there, so it's got that going for it.
You just don't like being outside.
I don't mind being outside, just not waiting in line with a big crowd of people where you can't walk through.
What else are you doing? Why are you in the Comcast Center?
They have Table 31 there. That's a good restaurant, so that's about it.
Okay. That would not be on my list. Go see the light show.
The Lumineers at the zoo.
I have never seen the Lumineers at the zoo, but I really want to. I can't imagine. Are the animals out?
What does it say in the article?
Well, let's see.
I think they put the animals away, and they set up like a big light show outside, and it's kind of I think there's like a 25-foot tree.
They've only been doing this for 2 years.
Yeah, it's a new thing.
Oh. All right, well, a flock of plastic
Well, they have
flamingos, a 25-foot tall tree, polar bear, hot chocolate.
See, this is more up my alley because it's a controlled environment. You got parking right down the street. The zoo is easy to get into, easy to get out of.
Performances.
Yeah, the zoo is one of the best kept secrets in Philadelphia. Because I mean, and it's not like too big. Like you do one loop,
It's small.
and you're good to go. But it's also got a lot of animals. So this is a pretty good one. So your favorite was your rating number. The light show is number one.
Light show is number one. I'd say Blue Cross River Rink is number two.
So the number one here is very easy. It's the Mummers Parade on New Year's Day when you get to go see the Mummers.
No.
No laws in the streets.
No way.
Go down to 2 Street. We didn't even talk about
you
it
go?
here. I've been in the past. Yeah,
I've never gone. I will never go. That's just like a bunch of people who are drinking, and it's a mess, and it smells, and there's too many people.
Well, you have to know where
I
to
don't
go.
like Mummers
the
anyway.
right spots.
Sorry,
I mean,
Mummers.
If you go down to the Union League, that's a great place to go to watch it. 2 Street is really cool. To me, that is the most Philadelphia holiday tradition out of all of them. And the best part is it's after Christmas, so you can go do whatever you want with this stuff, and then go have fun, and then get back to work on the second.
So that's your number one.
That would be my number one, yeah. Surprise pick.
That is a surprise. I would say that's not even on my radar or list.
What do we got for motivation? The show's going long here.
Okay, so our motivation is from Thomas Edison. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. What do you think?
Ideas don't mean anything, and you have to execute on them. I think it's so clear to me, and it's like other people say this in a much more crass or in-your-face way. This is like a nice way of saying it. You got inspired, you got the idea, but then you had to put in the sweat equity to make it happen.
Yeah.
I just think of Gary Vee, where he says ideas are crap. That's not what he says. He makes it worse.
Oh.
Execution's the game. I've heard this like all over the place from people lately. This is the proper way to say it. Love this quote. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I was actually driving back from New York and at a rest stop, and they had this like stenciled on one of the walls. So I was like, that'll be great for our show. But to me, it's just saying that you may be really scared about an idea. It might not be a great idea in your head, but nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to come to fruition unless you actually get up and do something. And like you said, put in the sweat equity. So you can have all these, maybe jot it down, get it out of your mind, tell someone else, start an idea group. But the only way it's going to get done is if you actually put some backbone behind it.
Well, if you look at Thomas Edison's career, I mean, he had a lot of bad inventions that didn't go anywhere.
But he had one.
Well, he had more than one. The
was
light bulb
great.
was the most famous.
Yes.
So, and one of the things I've been reading recently is that you try to like scale your whatever you're trying to do. You try to get bigger, faster, stronger. You have to scale the amount of times you fail and your failure rate, because out of however many failures that happen, the thing that works, that's the thing that's going to propel you forward. So you got to be actually more risky as you try to build your business or do whatever you're doing if you're trying to scale, because you need more to get further.
And maybe not so be afraid of the failures, because if you look at the big picture, they're part of what it takes to accomplish something.
Yep.
Cool.
Go to the Mummers Parade. Catch you guys next week.